Hey everyone, back doing our second trailer review of the night.
Episode 9, Part 2.
Episode 9, Part 2. We are going to be doing, talking about the newest Shazam trailer, which is probably going to be the final one that's been released. And to date, actually, I think the best one that they've had out. This movie looks like a ton of fun. Very different from the other DC films. DC has started out, we know, kind of very dark, very serious. Justice League, they try to, or well, actually with Wonder Woman, I think they tried to lighten the tone a little bit. Justice League, you can, even though that movie didn't really work too well, you could still see what they were trying to go for with a little bit more light-hearted humor in there. Definitely saw that with Aquaman, and the trailers are just highlighting that for Shazam.
Well, yeah, I think this movie is leaning heavily towards like the comedic vein.
Yes.
It's not like situational comedy, which is a lot in a lot of films. And even though I think a movie like Thor, which had a lot of comedy in it, this Shazam is almost approaching the level of like it's almost a comedy. It's almost
superhero comedy.
It's a superhero comedy.
Yeah.
As opposed to a superhero movie with a lot of comedic elements, if that makes any sense.
I think the kids that are in this film look to be fantastic. I mean, right now we're in the age of seeing, a great cast like Stranger Things, and even the cast from Mussolini's It. Those kids steal the show, and they are great young actors. And it just so happens one of the kids from Stephen King's It is in this film. I think he plays Freddy.
And when is this film opening?
This opens April 5th. We've got like 2 weeks.
Okay.
This is coming out.
Oh, so this is coming out next. Okay.
Even though Black Adam has been greenlit with The Rock, I don't really want to say greenlit, but they're still developing it. Supposedly he's not in this film, which is sad. I really hope that they're kind of lying to us and that he's in some type of post-credits.
He's greenlit to play that character.
Yes.
Not in like its own movie.
It was supposed to be a Black Adam film, but I don't know if they're still going that route or if they're going to save him for the sequel for Shazam. But we've got Dr. Savannah. I love Mark Strong. I think he's a great actor. He was great in Kick-Ass. He was definitely one of the better parts of the Green Lantern film.
Oh, he was the guy who played Sinestro.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I like him.
Yeah, and he was the dad in Kick-Ass. The villain. So I'm actually really looking forward to those two guys. Zachary Levi looks built for this role. He definitely has he's had some nice comedy in the past, and I think he's putting that to the test here. I loved some of. I mean, this to me it keeps screaming to me that this is a superhero version of the movie Big.
Yes.
Okay, like that. That to me is what it feels like. I love how it's still connected to the DC universe. You definitely see the Batarang in there. There's I think there's a Superman bullet in a plastic baggie that's like, a bullet that bounced off of him that Freddy keeps in his like drawer. I think that was in another trailer. But in this trailer you see Shazam's it looks like a Target or something like that. And he's playing with like the Batman, and then you see Superman's costume in like the background. So to me that really made it a lot of fun.
Yes, I mean, I can tell you right now, Chris is definitely looking more forward to seeing this movie than I am. Not that I'm not looking forward to seeing it. Chris is very excited about this movie.
I since the first trailer, I was excited to see.
And I found the first trailer or two to not really. I didn't really find them that appealing. Where it's like, wow, I didn't watch those trailers and go, oh my god, I can't wait to see this. However, the last trailer, which I literally just saw for the first time, like 5 minutes ago, I hadn't seen that one yet. I think that was the best trailer. Because there's just so many. If you put all the trailers together, there's just so many instances of tongue in cheek that I think you're gonna have a hard time finding any serious part of this movie. but I think that's their intent.
Yeah, I mean, I think
they're going
in that
direction.
that they're going for.
Yeah.
There's already been some social media releases. I think they're lifting their reviews a week early, which is always a good sign. That this is already getting some pretty decent buzz for the people that have already seen it. A lot of the social media release has lifted, so you're starting to finally see some critics put up a couple little tidbits online, and the majority of them have really come out positive. So I'm actually really excited to see where this goes. My favorite part was at the end where he tries to leap a building in a single bound and
Goes right,
crashes right
into the building.
I thought that was great. I really enjoyed that.
So the thing that I find just absolutely ironic, and I don't think most people like really get this. The fact that a Captain Marvel movie and a Shazam movie
at the same
are
time,
being released
literally a month
within
apart.
a month apart. Because I mean, I think a lot of people might know this, but a lot of people might not. You know, the original Shazam originally was called Captain Marvel back in the late 30s and the 40s.
And Shazam was the wizard. Well, still is.
Yeah. I mean, I forget when the Captain Marvel character first appeared. It was either 1939 or 1940, but it was after Superman, and it was not a DC comic or a National Periodicals comic,
No.
or an All American comic. It was by Fawcett.
Fawcett Comics.
And there was and he was Captain Marvel.
The Wiz, right? Wasn't the Wiz Comics?
Well, Wiz Comics, and then eventually Captain Marvel, and then there was a whole family. Like there was Mary Marvel and Uncle Marvel,
which I think they're in this.
Yeah.
I think they're really. I mean, his foster family. They're highlighting the foster family in one of the other trailers, and you see Freddy, and then you see some of the other characters in this. So I mean, we still don't know if anyone else is getting powers in this movie or not. There have been some release of action figures with the family members with powers. So I don't know if they're just doing that for action figures, or is that going to actually be in the film?
There was also a Captain Marvel Jr. that was actually really popular by some of the really iconic covers by famous comic book artist called Matt Gravoy. Really intense. But Captain Marvel, I mean, back then was known as like the big cheese,
big red cheese,
the big red cheese. And I think it was a little bit like a little bit of hammy. It was a little. And there was a whole big to-do with that because ultimately DC wound up suing Fawcett because they felt that the character was a real too much of a copy of Superman because of his strength and his look. So it was kind of odd, and I think DC won that lawsuit, and eventually I'm not exactly sure how it turned out, but ultimately they stopped making Captain Marvel comics. Now I don't know how DC wound up getting Shazam, getting the character.
Well, they bought Fawcett Comics,
which is really okay. That's what happened. So they went, and what happened at some point is the copyright expired on the name Captain Marvel, and Marvel picked it up in the late '60s and used it for their character Captain Marvel, or Captain Marvel, which is the character that that Marvel's doing now. One of its
so
one
DC
of its
had it
iterations.
first.
Yeah, no, well, Fawcett had it first.
Yeah, Fawcett had it first. Very true.
And then so you will see like a bunch of Shazam comic books, especially by DC for a long time. Even in the Shazam appeared in the 70s.
Yep.
In the 80s and the 90s on Crisis on Infinite Earths.
He got much more popular as the years went on.
Yeah.
And he's only really been called Shazam and had the comic Shazam since the New 52 a few years ago when they kind of, I think, altogether eliminated the Captain Marvel name. I don't really think you see or hear that much.
Marvel
anymore.
has never let the name Captain Marvel expire. They have always, for the most part, like there's a certain amount of time that like if you don't use it for a certain amount of time, you're going to lose it. It becomes public domain. So like one of the things I think we mentioned in an earlier episode is there's been multiple iterations of Captain Marvel at Marvel comic books.
Yes.
Even as some of those characters die, there's always a new Captain Marvel, mainly because they don't want to lose. They don't want to lose the name.
Yeah.
And that's the way it goes. So so having these two movies come out a month apart is just a really super ironic thing that I think most people just don't get. But and they have nothing to do with each other, but it's just the timing. It's just
there's memes. I mean, there's memes that are online that are really funny that are showing Captain Marvel versus Captain Marvel, and I think even Zachary Levi had something to say about like don't compare the two films, like that's not fair to Brie Larson's character, like in her film, like we're not competing against each other, like we're just putting out our movies and just trying to have fun and support one another. And I agree with that. I think it. There's always going to be, for the fans anyway, there's always going to be that Marvel versus DC when the movies come out,
Oh.
and with any product.
Always, yeah.
But I honestly do believe that as long as these two companies are each putting out good comic book films that people are going to see, no matter what the company is, that's going to further progress the industry for that niche, for that
and
genre.
not for nothing, there's room for both of them.
Absolutely.
No one's going to really force the other one out, because not for nothing, both universes have an enormous amount of characters.
Yes.
As long as they keep doing it, and they keep doing it right, and they pull more and more characters into the fold, I don't really see either of them falling to the wayside. Maybe one might be doing it better than others. I think Marvel has been better at kind of tying all these films together. I mean, you're talking
Marvel
all the
has done
film.
a great job.
Marvel
building their universe.
but that was that really was a characteristic of Marvel Comics. Marvel Comics continuity was the interrelationships of all the different when other characters appeared in other comics, and they constantly referred back to the past, and
Right.
there was a 30 to 40 year strict continuity within Marvel comic books that you really didn't get that sort of continuity in other books. There was a little bit, but not to that level. There was a lot of things where just people just did whatever they wanted, and it didn't matter. Whereas Marvel really kept a real linear historical structure, which was really, I think, unparalleled in any comic book company. It's going to be fun.
Well, talking about continuity, I'm going to really watch and look for any Easter eggs and just see what the Shazam movie is going to show as far as the bigger DC universe. Like, are they going to be mentioning other cities or towns? I mean, obviously we see portraits, we see things of Batman and Superman in here. I think Freddy even has an Aquaman t-shirt at one point. His room is littered with, I think, superhero paraphernalia in one of the trailers. So I think I'm going to really look forward to that and see how this builds, because are they grooming Shazam to be a part of a Justice League film or a team up or something in the future? And I wouldn't be surprised if they are going to head towards that way, because I think he could be a really fun character, because he's 15 years old. And he's an adult, and, with superpowers. I think that's very interesting, and I think a lot of people would kind of, they would dream of doing this at 13, 14, 15 years old. What would you do with superpowers?
Well, I mean, Shazam was an integral part of the Kingdom Come storyline.
Big. If you guys have not read that by Mark Waid and Alex Ross, you should really read
Kingdom
that
Come is one of the best DC reads ever. So I'm also curious if if there's any plans for them to adapt that to the screen.
They should. I mean, to me, if you're going to do an Elseworlds movie, that to me would be top on my list.
Is Kingdom Come Elseworlds?
Yeah, that's considered.
Oh, it's
Elseworlds.
not considered like a future story?
I mean, I think it's considered like a future Elseworlds story, but I'm pretty sure it's an Elseworlds story.
Yeah, well, Kingdom Come is where it's at. So,
absolutely. I would love to see them do that at some point in time. But I think with that, guys, I think we're going to end this trailer review. So if you haven't seen it, go out and watch. And then when the movie comes out, April 5th, go and see it. Okay?
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
was Shazam. All right, guys? Thanks so much. Enjoy.
See you soon.